Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakah Kadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, a great millstone that rule well, and Shalom to all the brothers doing the right considering truth, pushing this word to the four corners. So you've basically had these tariffs from Trump coming into force. I think it was China, Canada, and another country that slips my mind at the moment. But I think there might have been a delay on certain products from China, I'm sure of, and I think Canada as well. But some of them coming into force, and that for the last few days, for like the last week or so, has been the talking point because everyone's essentially on edge. Because with those tariffs, it's like as soon as they come in, you're going to start having prices being impacted to where costs being impacted to where everyone's going to feel it, and it's going to be pain. Because as soon as the US puts them in, then all the other nations as well are going to start throwing them in, and everyone's going to be hurt and sore and in pain. So on Sky News it says Trump admits tariffs disturbance as China says it's ready for any type of war with the US. And yeah, the discussion of war conflict shouldn't be a surprise, because last time Trump was in office, that's what went down. Trade war with China. And then even, China said as well they're intent on making a maneuver on Taiwan soon. Which, we can wait and see what comes of it. Because you still have the micro CHIP situation where Taiwan is, TSMC, like I think the world's biggest, most advanced manufacturer for CHIPs, and that's something that's used militarily, business, everything. So Taiwan being handed over doesn't seem as straightforward as it was with like Hong Kong, because one, that was from Britain and there was a prior agreement. But Taiwan's been doing their own thing, but China's looking to pounce on it. But we'll see. So it says Donald Trump has admitted his tariffs on major trading partners will cause a little disturbance, as China said it was ready for any type of war with the US. The US president made his comments in an address to Congress hours after the levies on imports came into effect. Producers in Mexico and Canada have been hit with a 25% tax on items they export to the US, while a 20% tariff has been applied to Chinese imports. So yeah, Mexico was the other nation I forgot. So Mexico, Canada, and China, I think some of those they adjusted on. Stock markets, which Mr. Trump is said to pay close attention to, slid on the tariffs news. Yeah, there's people posting all kinds of pain. Because basically everything was in decline. Exporters in the affected countries, as well as businesses in the US and economists, have raised concerns about potential price-raising impacts of the tariffs. Making imports more expensive will likely make goods more expensive and could push prices up across the board. A cycle of high inflation could lead to interest rates being higher for longer in the US, the world's largest economy, which could dampen economic activity. Yeah. And that's the main thing people are kind of looking at. The reality of how the economy functions in ESOS system now. It's a global economy. Everyone's relying on a bunch of products being shipped, flown, whatever over from different countries to wherever they get constructed. And all these things are done to be all these decisions are made essentially to have those things shipped, moved, and built and then sent on to where they're going to be sold at the lowest price. So as soon as you start having to be like, okay, we're paying 20% on this, and then 20% on this, and 20% on this, it's meant to make people go and be like, okay, we're going to the US. But then they might just start cutting out certain countries. But then we'll have to see, because it's kind of it's not just like America's gonna apply their tariffs, and then we're not gonna see anything. It's America's applied their tariffs, and then you're gonna have retaliatory things happen from from different countries, and as it ramps up, we'll kind of see where where the chips end up, how everything kind of ends up, how the chessboard ends up, what position it ends up in, because regardless for America, it's gonna be hurt. Americans are gonna be all kinds of hurt. Costs are gonna go up on a bunch of things. It's like with in the UK, they added like sugar tax like years back now, where it was meant to stop people drinking, eating as much sugar. But then all that happened is, it was like essentially the guy selling it had to pay the tax for, depending on how much sugar they have in their product. But then how much sugar they have in their product. But then all that happened is they just crank the price up that they charge to the customer, so that the tax essentially was just like it costs a bit more. So it didn't even have like them reducing sugar. They still had like Coke Zero and whatnot, but then it's like regular Coke has, was it 21 grams, 16 grams of sugar? It's like an insane amount of sugar in it. And they didn't adjust it because they're just like, fuck it, just increase the price to the equivalent of what that is. And you're gonna have that with a lot of these tariffs, where they'll just be like, okay, well, we gotta sell. They might import clothing, furniture, cars, whatever the fuck. The price would just crank up equivalent to what the extra tariffs or whatever they have to pay. And then when people overseas have to do that shit, then that's where it starts multiplying upon itself, to then be like, okay, so they're paying to get things from America, building it, and then paying again to ship it there and sell it. So it's it's gonna be immense. So a slowed US economy would have global consequences, but even without a hit to the states, there are fears of a global trade war in which countries add their own trade barriers in the form of tariffs. The Chinese embassy in the US posted on X, if war is what the US wants. Well, I'll just read it. It says what? The fentanyl issue is... So a spokesman. So fentanyl issue is a flimsy excuse to raise US tariffs on Chinese imports. Our countermeasures to defend our rights and interests are fully legitimate and necessary. The US, not anyone else, is responsible for the fentanyl crisis in the US in the spirit of humanity, blah, blah, blah. If the US truly wants to solve the fentanyl issue, then the right thing to do is consult with China by treating each other as equals. If war is what the US wants, be it tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight to the end. And yeah, tariff war, trade war, the reason it's saying any type of war is because these wars then cascade down, go through the process, and can end up with that boots on the ground war. Because why? It's like with Iran, since I think Trump got in last time, so like 2017-ish, when he just got in, he put, I think it was there were sanctions on them, on Iran, from when what's his name was in, when Obizi was in. But then it was just as they made the nuclear deal, before he got out of office, Um, then they had the sanctions come off, so they're allowed to do trade for a bit. But when Trump came in, he squashed it, and that lack of trade is basically that lack of trade is what is it? No, it's had them fucked. It's had them in legendary amounts of pain and anguish, which is why you've had a lot of civil unrest because there's been restrictions on what can trade, and then as well they've had to basically link up with Russia, China, their sphere of influence, and deal with them more. And then that hatred for the West that's over there, especially the US, has just been building, and that goes into prophecy, Ezekiel 38. The different nations where Russia will be a god unto them, Russia will back them, and then they're kind of building that sphere of influence that's going to come against the West and Trump's his mindset, his approach. You can see it's pushing everything further and quicker towards that. Because what I say, China and Canada have retaliated with their own tariffs against the US. From next week, China will add its own 15% levy on a range of agricultural products such as chicken, wheat, corn, and cotton. An extra 10% will be added to soybeans, pork, beef, fruit, vegetable. What are they called? They're called a levy. So an extra 10% will be added to soybeans, pork, beef, fruit, vegetables, and dairy product imports. The country has also raised additional complaints against the US and the World Trade Organization. So yeah, they're focusing on food, which I'm not actually sure how many of those, what those even involve, but more likely than not, that's probably what the US is importing, or it might just be something where it hurts broadly enough that it's a means to pressure Trump down from it, and we'll kind of see how it goes. Because as I said, it's like some of these um were meant to be have restrictions put upon them. I think it's like one of the main ones that's been about from before is on like electric vehicles, and yeah, that's basically what's keeping Tesla alive. So we'll see. It might, and the thing is as well is it might be a back and forth, for further escalation to then just decay and decay more on the what do you call it? Decay and decay more on the what do you call it? On the general economy. It's funny as well because you had China doing stockpiles for like food products from a while back, like 5 years at this point now. I think it was during no, I think it was before the pandemic kicked in. You had them stockpiling on foodstuffs. So it might be just like an arena. They're like, okay, we got enough for stockpile where we can, what do you call it? We can compete there. What does it say? So speaking to the Sky News presenter Yalda Hakim, the U.S. former Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger said Chinese President Xi Jinping was turning the Chinese economy into a wartime economy. He's preparing his economy for war so that it can withstand the shocks of war, he said, on the World with Richard Engel and Yalda Hakim podcast. That means he's willing to undergo massive inefficiencies in the economy. He's willing to stockpile food that otherwise would flow easily and more cheaply in from foreign vessels. He's stockpiling copper and all kind of inputs into the economy. He's making sure that the private sector is wholly aligned with broad goals, and they're about increasing the CCP's control over the economy and creating a bigger, better defense industrial base. He's preparing for war. So yeah, you've had like a lot of clear aspects of how really from when interest was being shown in an invasion in Taiwan, China's been preparing for war. But now you see as well, it's like with Trump in there, it's brought that abrasiveness to where these things are escalating, its tempers are flaring. The relations between Europe and the US are fraying because, things JD Vance is saying, things Trump is saying, Elon's influence going and linking up with certain political groups before, the thing he went through, before before the elections went off. And then people were upset about that, saying, oh, they're going to investigate into it. But then with these things being done, it's all what? Building that atmosphere for war. Because why? That's something that needs to pop off. And then, other prophecies, the main ones, what? The MLTB. That's something that's being pushed heavy. Time of Jacob's trouble. These are things that we can see, coming to fruition. The things being the table being set. Like the whole big push from Trump getting his immigration, Northern Kingdom getting grabbed up and shipped out, and that's kind of grasped the minds of the people in one aspect. And there's been huge, uh, impacts of that, and it's people are getting emotional, people are getting feeling a certain way about it. And it's all kind of stoking the fires. So I read this, Habakkuk 2 and 4. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire is hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. And yeah, that's Esau to a T. That, not upright spirit, and then what? That proud man neither keepeth at home. And, Trump getting in, Nero himself, getting in. He's basically been that spirit of pride personified. Esau's whole spirit that is reflected in, the mythos of America, the eagle, the presidents, the so-called, was it truth, justice, in the American way, all these different terms and kind of different forms of wine they built around getting people invested in America. He encapsulates all them. And because he's, so perfectly defines it, that's why he's so abrasive. Because you've had Esau really try, and you've got like that. What is it? Get Out, where you have the family where they're like, oh, I would have voted for Obama a third time, and they seemed jovial, cheerful, approachable, and whatnot, and like, oh, it's like, yeah, we like. But then lo and behold, behind, in the dark, what were they getting up to? They were doing a madness, and that you have a lot of these Esau Edom, these so-called white people, where they've been, you know, they think they have that new image that Satan turned himself into an angel of light. They've really bought into that, and they think, oh, they're just, they're righteous. But then the reality of it is what? Um, the reality is that they're what the devil the Bible speaks of. And then, Trump really reminds them of that, all that bluster, all that pride. That's their whole spirit, man. And cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long, and to him that ladeth himself a fit clay. Yeah, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, because that's the real. The real is all these different nations are gonna feel like, yo, what the fuck, fuck this guy. Um, hmm. It's gonna bring back to mind all the slights they've suffered. A big aspect of why everyone's kind of made do with the system goes into Revelation is what they the merchants, the ability to make money, the ability to trade, the ability to come here and build a wealth. Well, I say come here, go to America, then build a wealth of Babylon the Great. That's a huge draw. But now, those avenues are being closed up. And then, you got Nero amassing all to himself. Everyone's going to remember and be like, yo, fuck this guy. Woe unto him. Psalms 10 and 4, it says, the wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. And yeah, with Esau, with Trump especially, that spirit of puffeth at them, man. Bluster, making himself, enlarging himself against them. Because why? He's that old spirit come back, man. That same spirit of Esau, encapsulating it. And he's not putting on a show. He's not pretending. He's basically just feeding into it. And then that's a lot of what people in the nation are feeding into. To the point you even got Jakes feeding into it, man. When they're just like, oh, well, they're written, but then why? Because they want a slice of America, man. They want a piece. They want to come here and have a jolly old time, man. They want to be able to enjoy themselves, and that's the ideal he's selling. Revelation 12 and 12, it says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devils come down unto you having great wrath, because of the earth but a short time. Yeah. So with these trade war, it's that intensified. Because just as over here in the UK, you've had like the energy cap get scrapped, you had the bankers bonuses cap get scrapped. You had you've basically had the situation. Labels meant to come in and save the day, like they did in 1997 with what's his name, Tony Blair, the Golden Boy. For a lot of especially a lot of these jakes that are over here, where they love up labor, but then what's the reality of it is situation's been getting worse and worse, and then even labor, the man bless up labor, the labor that's meant to have come in and saved the day, these men are completely following in the same stead as what is it, the conservatives, because why it's all the same plan, the same agenda moving forward, where now it's the same like with energy caps and whatnot. It's all kinds of costs are gonna go up, where people are thinking like, oh, we're gonna have reduced taxes or whatever, and different government programs to aid them in just getting by. And then as well, like, basic living standards and whatnot maintained. But the truth's coming out. The UK is actually a third world country, a third world country in reality, man. And people out here are all kinds of through all that glory that they thought they were reclaiming with Brexit is, you know, it's a mirage. It don't exist, and that's all that intensifying people are gonna be feeling less and less like just making do. They're gonna be all kinds of fucked up, man. And really, they're gonna find out that those that have power over them, those in charge, don't give a flying fuck. Whether it's Keir Starmer, Zelensky, Elon Musk, Trump, or the actual elites, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Gates, these different group banking families that bear rule. They ain't thinking about you, man. They're looking to turn, lower them numbers, man, and get in, their plans and desires. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom.